Ism's good, pal.
I am pretty terrific. Sorry to hear that you have strep, though.
Yeah, it's no fun, man. But, I don't really know if we should be airing my medical history on this thing.
Well, you're on antibiotics, as you call
That's
them.
That's not how you say it. It's antibiotics.
You did not
man.
say
Get educated.
You said
Get educated.
I'm on like your wife's name, biotics. Hey guys and gals, welcome back to your favorite podcast, That Would Be Rad, the podcast that majors in 80s and 90s nostalgia, comic culture, all things paranormal, and minors in retro video games, tabletop RPGs, pre-internet mysteries, and raising our kids to be half as cool as we were back in the 80s. I'm your host, Tyler Bence, and this is your other host,
Woody Brown.
Hey man, how's it going?
What's up, man? Well, I'm just kind of battling through some early school year sickness.
Yeah, but on the bright side, I'm so excited to get them back in there because this has been a difficult summer to get anything done.
I'm excited for them, your kids, but also mine,
Mm-hmm.
I just like, whenever they get into that next grade, they're learning new cool stuff, and hey, man, it's exciting.
Before we get into some of the topics that I'm bringing to this episode, I just kind of wanted to shoot the shark.
Bull.
Okay.
Shoot the bull.
Shoot the bull, as he says, because we really haven't just been able to talk and just kind of catch up and do the thing that we pretty much do every day. So we sort of have a stockpile of things that we haven't really talked about.
Yeah, for example, I was going to leave this in for the Patreon, but selfishly, I want everybody to hear it only because I still want other people to help me find this thing. But when I said a couple weeks ago, I've done it again, here's what I mean by that.
Uh-oh.
I've been on a search.
Again.
For this movie that I swear I saw whenever I was younger. And longtime listeners of our show probably get sick of, I'd say every 3 or 4 months I bring it up. Yeah. But understand that it's literally in my head daily.
No, dude, I fully understand. I mean, I had my own. And of course, now I can't think of what it was called.
Well, first, let me just explain because we've gotten a lot of new listeners. And so let me explain what's going on here. So whenever I was younger, okay, I remember seeing this movie in my memory. I swear I saw it with my mom by accident. We were just watching TV.
Couldn't have been.
I can't remember if we rented it. Well, see, the thing is, in Indonesia, man, there's this guy that, he basically invented the old school Netflix, except for he would come to you. So imagine
oh, wow.
It was what's it called when you order food?
Red food? Redbox?
No, when you order food nowadays.
Like Uber Eats?
And they bring it to you.
Or
yeah. It was like Uber Eats mixed with Netflix. This guy would, except for you didn't call him, he just showed up. Ding dong.
Wait, he'd bring
have
food?
This suitcase of videos, man, that you would rent from him. Now, most of them were pirated copies.
They show people walking across.
Oh yeah, from the theater, and tiny subtitles that you can't really see. You're like, oh yeah, they recorded Dances with Wolves in a theater.
Yeah.
But he would come in. Sometimes the covers were in English. Sometimes they just didn't have them. We would just go by the title. We're like, okay, cool, Blood Sport. That sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then, saw it too young.
Yeah.
I swear I saw this movie, at least in my memory, okay? And there's only there's only a few scenes that I remember specifically, and then the rest, no idea. Now, I bring it up all the time because there was also this song that I've been searching for
the fireworks.
Yeah. 10 years or so, 15 years.
Yeah.
And I finally found it.
Yep.
And that has given me sort of new hope that maybe this movie exists and someday I'm going to find it. Because I can't tell you the level of joy that I felt when I finally found that song and the video and all that.
And how did you find it? I can't remember.
Dude, I found an old stack of mix CDs and I just was playing them. And then I found the band name and I was like, man, that sounds familiar. And then I looked that up.
Do you remember who it was?
Hold on, dude. I wrote it down in one of our notebooks here. Hold on just a second.
Because you had me on the hunt for 10 years also.
Yeah. Dude, every single notebook now, because I just started a new one, on the inside cover, I have written down mystery song. The band's called the Kinnison.
That's it, yeah.
With a K. And then the name of the song is You'll Never Guess Who Died. Oh, so emo.
Like all I remember were the fireworks.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't even remember
sort of
the
like
song.
a backlit sort of thing. I don't know. Anyway, that's less important.
Yeah.
Only important in context that it has given me hope that someday I'm going to find this movie. Now, here are the scenes that I remember.
Okay.
One of the scenes, there's this man who's, I don't know, like, it's almost like in my memory, it's like he's bloody, doesn't have any skin. He's almost like in the middle of being transformed into a full regular human, okay?
Yeah.
There's vague recollection of some sort of, not really body snatcher, but some sort of like doppelganger theme in this, okay?
Okay.
And before you think, oh, Hellraiser, it's not. I've watched it, and it's similar. There's so many of these movies that I end up watching that have I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. It's not it.
I thought it was Nightbreed.
Yeah, I need to rewatch that again, too.
I mean, it's not, but...
It's not, I don't think.
No.
But it does seem kind of Clive Barker.
Yeah. Well, this guy, like, I mean, it's a little graphic, but he carves around, he leaves the face.
Yeah.
Everything else is gone.
Now, and this is something like there's this, so the skinless person is in either a hospital or a lab. I don't really know. I feel like there's like, white tiled walls or something. In any case, it's like a hidden away type thing. Well, I think he tries to approach either his wife or daughter maybe, and he's like trying to communicate, but he can't. He's just kind of like mumbling. Of course, she's horrified because there's this skinless monster coming after her. He's sad because he's like recognizing his loved one. I don't remember if it's daughter or wife. And then I feel like she went there because he got into a wreck or something, and then she runs out because she's like scared. But then I think the dad, and again, this part I could be mixing up with other movies, but I feel like the dad comes back and is trying to just like live the normal life, but they figure out like, wait a minute, this can't be right. That's not really him. And so they infiltrate this, I think a young girl and a younger dude infiltrate this hospital or lab or,
How
whatever.
do you remember all this?
Because it just stood out, man. I mean, first off,
You've never told me any of this.
The skinless, yes, I have.
I mean, you've only told me about the skinless man part.
No.
This sounds almost like Dark Man. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's not Dark Man. So it would have been before that.
Yeah,
so it's got to be, the release date has to be early 90s. So I would say like mid to late 80s. Probably, maybe early 90s, but not Dark Man. I watched that movie a million times when I was a kid.
Yeah, I loved it too. I can't remember it. It's been forever, but...
Oh, I got it on VHS, bro.
Yeah, I did love it.
And Dark Man too.
I mean, it sounds like something like that, or like The Invisible Man or something like...
Yeah, it's something like
definitely
that.
Definitely got to be older, though.
But it's like, the from what I remember in my memory, it's super graphic, So then there's that piece that I remember. And then somehow I think like the boy and the girl infiltrate this lab. They're trying to do something. I don't know. But the other scene that I remember distinctly is they're escaping, okay?
The boy and the girl.
The boy and the girl. They're in a car, and they think they're like, oh, man, we did it. And they're like driving away. And then all of a sudden, like a body, sort of like a half-formed person, just like, boom, like plops on the hood of the car, like trying to stop them. And they just kind of like keep going.
God, man. I mean, that sounds familiar to me.
And so it's like I've done everything. I mean, I've pulled all the stops. I've even plugged it into like AI. And guess what AI's first result was?
Hellraiser.
Kamala Harris. I'm kidding. The first result was...
That tracks.
the first result was, Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of that to say, I've watched maybe at this point 100 old 80s movies that seem promising or other people have suggested to me.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's little elements here and there that kind of trick me into thinking, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, for example, the like Reanimator and like, I mean, there's so many obscure 80s movies that I've tried to watch. And so, hold on just a second. I don't really have a working list. I should do that sometime. But again, like, you wouldn't believe the hours of time that I've just accidentally dedicated to this.
Yeah. No, what I was saying up top is I 100% understand this search because I was the same way until I ran across mine, which was a movie called Fortress. I
yeah.
also had mine saved in my notes, where all I remember as a kid, it's somewhere in the outback. These like kidnappers kidnap like a school, like a rural sort of like schoolhouse, and they take these kids, and the kids sort of like run and escape, and they all have like weird masks on. There's like a like Daffy Duck mask, and like it's really scary. And I remember there was a scene where they have to like they're in this like cave, and they have to like swim under the water, and there's some that like can't swim, and so yeah. When I discovered mine, which I think it was like last year, and it's a movie that I've talked to you about forever too. It felt like the world had been lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah.
I mean, so going back to yours, the idea of like the somewhat sort of sympathetic dad, having like the sort of rawhead Rex or the bloody bones thing. You haven't mentioned that to me, and that sounds familiar, but I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about like Dark Man or something.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I swear I've mentioned that before.
And then like the two like kids kind of like escaping a lab.
Yeah, and so like here's the other piece to just kind of make it difficult for everyone. These I've always remembered, but then now I'm at this point now where everything's sort of blurring together, and I can't tell if these are like new memories. It's kind of like when we ask my youngest, "Hey, do you remember Ireland?" She was 2 years old. Her only memories are from like looking at the pictures from that time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to think like, are the movies that I'm watching now sort of informing my recollection? I don't think so because I've maintained it. I feel like there's like dirt bike involved. Anyway, this is the list.
Any 80s movie.
Yeah, I know. This is the list of movies that I've recently watched that were close in some ways, but again, no cigar. There's one called Metamorphosis. It came out in 1990. Spectres, which came out in 87. Insect came out in 1987. I thought, well, maybe there's some sort of like weird insect thing. Nope. The Beast Within, 1982. Sounds promising. There's even like this transformation type stuff. Nope. Hellmaster, 1992. No.
Hellmaster, wow.
Yeah, and I thought, well, maybe there's some sort of demonology thing involved. No. This one really seemed promising. And I was like, oh man, this is close to the time period where it could have been. And it's Body Parts from 1991. It's got the dude from
that sounds familiar.
Lawnmower Man.
Not it?
No, not it. There's a hospital scene. There's even a part where like they're like putting together, like putting an arm or something or reattaching a limb for him.
Yeah, that's
just not it, man. There's other ones where it's like serial killer gets implanted and thing. Nope, I cannot find this thing.
I mean, if I'm going to be honest, you saying all this after going through all that, my takeaway is I'm so disappointed that our sort of honorary third member, Clay, hasn't.
He's given me tons of suggestions.
I mean, the fact that he hasn't like nailed it though is.
My thoughts are, as I've dug deeper, my thoughts are maybe it's some sort of like, I don't know, like obscure British or Australian or New Zealand film that I saw.
Well, you said that you thought that it was like on TV.
I feel like it was on TV, but again,
that sounds
man,
too.
Yeah, I can't remember. I just remember like having, and see, I also remember having nightmares about it. And that's the thing. Ultimately, I want to figure out, hey, is this just like a character and or are these scenes that like I just remember from a nightmare that was so, I guess, significant and or impactful in my childhood that like I've been able to carry it on,
Well, dude, the crazy thing about this is
this the Hat Man?
Well, close. So I remember when you first told me this, me being a big fan of, paranormal and stuff, it was sort of amazing to me because there is a character, and I mean, boy, this would have been the perfect segue, wouldn't it? Of having an episode about Rawhead Rex or Bloody Bones.
Yeah.
But there are these characters, sort of paranormal characters, some, sort of like the Hat Man coming off our Summer of the Shadow Man, Camp Rad Strangeness. There are these characters where people claim that, they'll wake up in the night and there will be this character sometimes called Rawhead Rex, sometimes called The Bloody Bones, where it is like a skinless man, which is pretty terrifying. So there is a little bit of an interesting quality about this, because I remember when you first told me, that was immediately what I thought. And so it is this idea that, like, with every year that goes by, that you still can't come up with this movie. It's like, did you actually maybe witness this weird, entity, and you just sort of, as a kid, lumped it in with like, oh, it was just like a movie.
Yeah. Or let me throw another option at you. And boy, I hope I can just find this movie.
I know.
It's so bad. And I apologize to the listeners that have just had to hear me, talk about it.
Oh, yeah, me too.
A couple of years now. Another cool thought would be, what if it is a old memory from a past life?
Wow.
Am I the dad? Am I the kid? I don't know. Hopefully the kid, I don't want to be the skinless guy.
I mean, how crazy would that be if in like another dimension you went through a horrible accident, got all your skin torn off, and you're like seeing this character, when in reality, in this other multiverse, it's you looking in the mirror at yourself.
I don't want to. Now I'm starting to get. That sounds gross and scary.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Yeah, man, I don't know, dude. I mean, so when you originally told me, you didn't add the fact that like it was like while you were in Indonesia.
The thing is, I don't know for sure. It's hard for me to imagine a scenario where that could have been on TV in the early 80s when I lived, for a small time in Texas.
Yeah.
There's no way that would have been on, because we didn't have cable, dude. My parents did not have cable until, I don't even know, we moved back.
Well, what about this though? Like, that is weird, because so my dad had HBO like way back, the big satellite, when I was like a little kid. And so that's where I would have seen that Fortress movie that I was thinking of, which, and I remember it used to come on like all the time. They had those like obscure movies that they would just play over and over and over. And so there's this whole generation of people, our age, that remember these like obscure movies because they were like mainstays on their like early HBO, In saying all that, to me, I wonder if, could it have been like a non-American, like some obscure like Indonesian thing?
No.
Or like Asian thing? No?
No, because it was like they were of more like European descent. It seems, I can't remember if there was, British or Australian or some kind of accent, but it was certainly like, in my memory, it was like an American movie.
Maybe your butler showed it to you.
No, we didn't have a butler. We did have a cook.
There it is.
And he didn't watch TV, man.
And several armed guards.
Just one.
And a butler. We did start that Lady in the Lake, Apple TV.
Oh, yeah, with Natalie Portman.
I've never found her very attractive.
I need you to take it easy.
I know, but
because how dare you?
I know, but
here we go.
I've got to say, this is the first movie where I'm like, okay, I kind of get it.
Oh man, what's it called again?
Lady in the Lake. It's pretty good. There's some like disturbing stuff about it, involved in there, but yeah, it's pretty good. It's done really well.
And it's on
Apple TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know if I'll ever find this movie. If you feel like you might know what it is,
please,
I'm begging of you, just give me some suggestions. Now, like I said, I've already kind of explored Hellraiser, but again, I've watched so many of them, and I kind of just skimming through for some of them. If you really think, hey, you need to go look at this movie again, because this sounds so much like it, especially our international listeners, those of you out in Tasmania and Australia and New Zealand, if this sounds familiar to you, oh my gosh, I'm begging. Lauren out in England, in the UK, please, if anybody.
How about this? How about if, okay, this is a new competition. If you find this movie and it is correct, we will mail you a big old care package full of a lot of really cool stuff. How about that?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, okay.
After these messages, we'll be right back. It's a pretty cool place if you're a Martian.
Or a vampire. You think you really know what's happening around here, don't you?
Is anyone out there?
We're fighters for truth, justice, and the American way.
Hey, this is Woody.
And this is Tyler. And you're listening to That Would Be Rad.
And now, back to our show.
Next up, I finally got around to seeing Godzilla Minus One.
Yes, dude.
And,
Talk to me about it, man.
And the new Ghostbusters.
Okay, I'm interested to hear what you thought about that, too.
Okay, first, Godzilla Minus One.
Hold on, save the best for last.
Okay.
Let's talk about Ghostbusters first.
Okay, here's my thoughts on Ghostbusters. I liked it. I thought it was good, but there's something about, how do I explain it? It's almost like, to me, it felt very like the first one was like, oh, we're sort of discovering all these new things and these sort of connections with like the grandkid and the daughter to sort of like old school Ghostbusters. And so it was like everything was kind of new. Mm-hmm. And like, I understand the idea that like, okay, the second one, we're sort of jumping in where they've kind of picked up the mantle and they're like the new Ghostbusters, or like sort of like the family of Ghostbusters, which I think is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And I like that, but it just sort of felt like the first one was like so reverent and handled with like such love and like done in like such a sort of patient way that I felt like this one just kind of like blasted through all that. Mm-hmm. And it didn't take the time to like, I don't know, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So the way I felt about it was entertaining and I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of like a lot of these, Godzilla, for example, some of them are good, some of them are bad, but they're entertaining.
Yeah.
Not Godzilla Minus One. We're going to get to that in just a second. But for this one, there was so much in the first movie, in Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yeah.
That's the first one, right?
Yeah.
There was so much like sort of emotion sort of tied into it.
Yeah.
And there was this like heartfelt sort of feeling that you got, and it brought back the nostalgia, and it brought back like, I thought they did a great job of sort of having that sort of family unity, but via like sort of a non-traditional sort of family, And I don't know, it had all these cool elements to it. The pacing was just perfect. This one, just like you said, I felt like the pacing was like really rushed, and then you don't really, it's difficult to sort of connect with these new characters that they're introducing. Yeah. And I mean, there's still some cool parts. And again, it's fun to watch. And now that I think it's on Netflix or something, you can just, not
that's
pay
where I
for
watched it. Yeah.
But I thought it was pretty cool. I will say like the bad guy though, or the main ghost was too scary for my youngest, who's, I mean, she gets scared pretty easily. So me and my oldest were just like,
also,
I don't think you should watch this.
Also, like the language in this one was,
I don't remember. I saw it like the day it came out, so I don't remember.
I sound like an old man, but like when you have kids, it's sort of, I don't know. There were a few moments where it was just like, constant, like over and over and over and over, and it's sort of like, who's this for? You know?
No, it sucks because you want to take your kids and have them experience the things that you loved without like being like, oof.
Which I think the first one, like they had that, they understood that in a way.
It was more like an 80s. It was kind of like Goonies. Goonies has like, I think in total, maybe 4 bad words, quote unquote bad words, right? Yeah. But they're done in a way that it's like funny. And even if they're too young to hear it, like it's still sort of like, huh, a kid said that? And then it's funny,
Yeah, right.
Whereas instead of it just being like a piece of the normal language, I don't, I wouldn't come away from a movie being like, that was a great movie, but it could have used a little more cussing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this one, I remember specifically that there's like a scene where like the Paul Rudd character and the mom are like, they're just like going back and forth and they're like, yeah, this guy's an asshole. This guy's an asshole. Like, and it's just sort of like, what are we doing? Like, what's the, why would you, I don't know. It's just sort of a way of like, to me, it feels like an intentional way to sort of like alienate a certain age group from being able to like go watch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Speaking of Paul Rudd, real quick, there's a couple of times, especially in the last couple of weeks, we've kind of talked about people that we know that our listeners don't. One of them being our good brother, Boo Boo, who was the bass player of our band.
His real name's Chris Martin.
Yeah, his real name's Chris Martin.
Ironically,
you guys know him as the lead singer of Coldplay.
Yeah.
We had him as a bass player. And if you ever want to know what he is like, all you got to do is go in there, watch the first, the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie, specifically the scene when he's in Walmart. That's Boo Boo.
Oh, yeah,
Literally, whenever I watched it, it was like I was watching my old friend walking through, just everything about it, dude. The mannerisms, it's just so good, and it's him, man. It's just funny.
Yeah, like for fun, he had this like really like crappy little car that looked like a little egg at one point. I don't even know what it was.
I don't remember the car, man.
Yeah, this was before.
I knew him probably. Huh?
Yeah, this was way before you knew him. And for fun, we literally would go. So him and I both worked at an Ingles, a grocery store. And for anybody who's worked at grocery stores, you will know that there's so much stuff that's like thrown out or whatever, So we would take these, 2-liter Cokes or whatever. We'd like shake them up and then you'd throw them off the back dock and then they would explode, flying over like trees and stuff.
These are like expired or damaged items. Just to help people.
Yes.
Instead of just them thinking you guys are just a-hole kids throwing good things away.
I mean, we did that also. But
okay.
But yeah, most of the time they were like expired. And also they were typically like the Ingles brand Coke or whatever kind of thing, So we would literally leave work and have these giant, like our whole backseat full of these like 2-liter Cokes and soft drinks and stuff. We would shake them up and we would literally he would be driving and I would just leaning halfway out the window, hurl them ahead of the car in front of us to just watch them just like explode onto the car.
Oh gosh.
And then just blasting.
Just laughing your butts off.
Laughing our butts off, blasting like Saves the Day, Goldfinger, No Motive. Because Boo Boo was like a real big, like old school kind of like punker kind of guy. Like not into like old school punk, but like.
But he loved some ska though, boy.
He did, yes. He was known for like some Save Ferris and some of that stuff. But yeah, he is Paul Rudd, I would say.
Yeah. Dude, I worked at a grocery store myself. Actually, it was one of my first real sort of official jobs because it was one of the only places that would hire you when you were 15. And
right. Yep.
I bagged groceries at Kroger.
Yep,
and same thing, me and my buddies, like we discovered this treasure trove of damaged stuff that literally all they do is, damage stuff. Like imagine a 6-pack of whatever. If one of the cans is missing, at the time, I don't know if it's still the policy, you had to put it in the damaged aisle. And basically you'd have this room full of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That was maybe like bread that expired the day before, whatever. And they would just like push it into a dumpster and something, it would get picked up. Well, one time my friend and I were like, man, you ever try to Bartles and James, bro? I don't even know. I remember the commercial though, man. Well, they had this it was like blueberry cooler or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think those came in like a 4-pack.
Classy.
And there was already 2 missing. It wasn't us. But it's back there. We're like, I mean, this thing's still cold. Should we just chug this thing? Dude.
Yeah, of course.
Me and my buddy chugged a blueberry cooler or whatever it was, Bartles and James.
Yeah.
And, and I'm not condoning this behavior. Children that are listening, I shouldn't have done that. Illegal.
Yeah.
And not good because I was at work.
Well, who are we kidding?
We came out of that back room, and this is back in the day when you could still you still would get tips for like pushing the groceries out to somebody's car. They would give you like cash tips, man. And I was already good at it. But boy, howdy, now that I had a little Bartles and James liquid courage in me.
Oh, yeah.
I was just, excuse me, ma'am. I can get these for you. Well, my manager noticed that both of us were just kind of maybe giggling a little too much.
Loose, yeah.
He says, hey, guys, can I let me talk to you in the office. Now, the office, you go up these stairs, is like upstairs.
Did it have like the
And-
glass, like looking out?
Yeah,
over
yeah,
the store?
looking out over the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And it actually wasn't a he. It was a girl that was like a senior, or maybe she was like a junior in high school. I don't know. She was like assistant manager. She busted us. And she says, let me ask you a question.
Narc.
But first, stick out your tongue. And I'm like, well, I like where this is headed. But I didn't think anything. I'm like, okay. And she's like, why is your tongue so blue? I'm like, what? She's like, look in the mirror. I look in the mirror. Dude, my tongue was as blue as a freaking,
man.
you know, like I'd been eating a, what's it called? Like a blow pop or something.
Yeah.
I mean, just like completely blue. And she's like, you guys smell like you've been drinking. Ooh. And you're just acting silly out there. We thought we were just crushing it out there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We were just being stupid, man.
Yeah.
And anyway, she was like, I'm not going to, you know, you could get arrested right now. You could this, that, and the other. I'm going to let you get back to work.
And you started getting a little scared.
I got real scared, man.
Yeah.
My parents don't drink.
Yeah.
They're going to kick my butt.
I mean, we lived in a dry county, or we definitely would have done that.
Yeah. For those of you in the rest of the U.S. that don't live in the Bible Belt and don't know what a dry county is,
Yeah.
that's where you can't even sell alcohol in stores.
Nope.
Or, well, I don't think at restaurants. I'm not sure about that one.
I'm not sure either, actually. I don't know how.
No. Because where I went to college was at the time a dry county.
Yeah, my town, Cleveland, was a dry county, but you could go to Helen
Yeah.
and they would serve alcohol.
Just incredible.
Good times. Also, you really dated yourself with the Bartles and James.
Bartles and James.
Dude, you're
Wine coolers.
okay. So yeah, I liked Ghostbusters. Ghostbutters.
I love butter stuff.
I liked it. I thought it was rushed. I thought, you know what it kind of felt like? It kind of felt like, and I mean, maybe this is a bad example, but you know, you had like Batman, you know, the original Michael Keaton, and there was so much love put into it. It was just like, you know, sort of exploring the character and introducing the character. But then you got into Batman Returns, which is also great, but it was all about like, oh, well, look, though, we're introducing all these new characters to sell like toys, and like, you know, 2 new villains are like introduced. And like, I think it's something crazy. I think you don't even see Batman for like 45 minutes in Batman Returns.
Man, now I'm going to have to watch it to fact check that.
Yeah,
but
it's something crazy like
now,
that.
we're walking on a tightrope here. That's I love that movie.
No. I love it too, but I'm just saying, like, it went from like this introductory thing straight into, oh, look at all these new gadgets, look at all these new characters, like a lot more sort of expanded. It didn't feel, I don't know, I guess like rushed is just probably the most.
Yeah, maybe not with that one, but certainly the ones when you start adding in Val Kilmer,
Oh,
Robin,
for sure.
and then it's like, well, it's not just. I think, dude, come on. The next one after that,
loved
isn't there
it.
like 3 villains?
Oh,
got
yeah, for
Mr.
sure.
Freeze.
Yeah, but they
got
also
Poison Ivy.
But they did
and
like
the
kind of
Riddler.
start it in Returns, where you know, now you also have like a new Batmobile. You have the new, like, everything was like just new, and it kind of felt like this in a way. I will say there is this scene that is like my favorite scene in the whole new Ghostbusters, where Paul Rudd's like, he's like sort of talking his way through the song, the Ghostbusters song, and it's like, it's pretty clever.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
But yeah, I liked it. I thought it was all right.
All right, now, please.
Here we go.
Dude, I'm so glad that you watched
I know.
Godzilla Minus One.
Yeah.
For those of you that still have not, it's now on Netflix.
Yeah.
And if you're not into, you know, hearing the original Japanese and reading the subtitles like my son and I did in the theater 3 times, then I encourage you to check it out on Netflix because it has English audio. And I haven't watched it actually in the English audio, and now I'm going to have to watch it.
I mean, I got to say it's pretty good, actually. The dubs
But
are
if you
good.
haven't watched the movie, pause
Yeah.
the show right here.
Yeah.
Because we're about to get into it and potentially spoil some stuff.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I waited forever. I wanted to watch it because I didn't think there was like a dubbed version, because most of the stuff that I watch, and I've said this 1,000 times here on the show, but I mean, Woody and I both really. We are, when we're sort of consuming like movies and stuff, we're working at the same time. So there's a good percentage of the movie that we're like hearing instead of like seeing the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's harder for me to do stuff with like subtitles.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why I haven't seen what's that movie, the Korean movie, Parasite. Never seen it.
Oh,
because it's only subtitles, as far as I know. And I want to give it the attention it deserves, and I'm not going to be able to like look up every 5 seconds to...
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I mean, I will say, too, like, it's funny because like I kind of have to have like, dubbed stuff in order to watch while I'm working. But then at the same time, like, man, I would say like 90% of like overdubs into English are they're just terrible typically. They're just like, it's like you can tell the voice actor they're just not nailing the emotion. It just feels very, I don't know. It just feels like it never quite like nails the vibe. But I will say in this, it's actually really good. I also started back since you told me, Woody, about that there was now like a dubbed version of that show, Dark. And I think the dubs are horrible in that show.
Yeah.
It's hard to get
They're
through.
not the greatest. But see, like, I'm so used to it because that's all I would like have overseas.
Maybe,
but then
yeah.
also I've been watching a lot of cheesy anime and stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm just used to it, man.
Yeah. But Godzilla Minus One is, it's completely well, so here's the thing. So the funny thing is, Godzilla Kong or Kong's Godzilla, whatever it was called, that came out a few years ago with Millie Bobby Brown and like, that one. I absolutely loved it. I let my kids watch it. You have like Mecha Godzilla, and at the end you have, spoiler, you have King Kong and Godzilla sort of teaming up to defeat Mecha Godzilla. There's a ton of like Hollow Earth stuff. Absolutely loved it. I read a lot of terrible reviews about the new one, but we had a movie night at the house, and I decided, well, let's just give it a shot. I actually thought it was awesome.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
I tried to watch it, and I don't know. I just didn't get into it.
I mean, it's great to watch like with your kids, so
Yeah.
you should give it a try for like a movie night or something. But I loved it, and so going into Godzilla Minus One, which by the way, do we know like what that title means?
I forget. While you're explaining, I'll look it up.
Okay.
'Cause I have known at one point, but I don't remember exactly right now. And
Yeah.
I don't want to give a wrong answer. So
Okay.
tell me what you think, and I'll have the answer by the time you're done.
Okay. But yeah, so I'm coming out of this sort of Hollywood polished, hi-fi sort of version, and I don't know what I thought. I mean, I know, you, Woody, told me a million times, like, oh, you got to see it. It's like it's a masterpiece. It's not what you think it is, and it's not like that I didn't want to see it. It's not like I hate Godzilla or anything. For some reason, I just wasn't able to see it when it was in the theaters. And my family was away, so I was able just to like sit back and enjoy it alone. And I absolutely loved it. I think it is probably the closest we would have to a Godzilla like art house movie almost. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Also, there's so much about it that's incredible that I've only kind of learned over time. Number one, they used a lot of the actual original audio that they remastered, from everything from the sound that Godzilla makes to the music, and then they just kind of worked around it.
Yeah.
For me, man, it's like, wow, I don't want to steal your thunder here.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Get into it.
All right, first, the title -1 apparently symbolizes Japan's lowest point after World War II. So it's basically they're already bad, and then now that Godzilla's here, it makes it it takes it below like 0.
Oh,
If 0 is like the worst,
Yeah.
this is just below that.
Yeah.
So that's what that means.
Interesting.
For me, the movie, I love Godzilla movies in general. Like the other one, I think the only reason I haven't watched the other one is because I'm sort of not really comparing it, but
you did the opposite of what I did.
Yeah. Now I've got this like incredible Godzilla movie that has so much story and incredible characters, and it's just so much more than just a creature feature. And then now I'm going to go back and watch, that one. Now, that being said, my son and I watched, what's it called? Oh, no. How can I forget this?
Sleepaway Camp.
No. It's the son. She thinks. Anyway. No. It's the shark movie, dude. The not Sharknado,
like the
but the one with
Meg?
Jason. The Meg.
I haven't seen that. Should I show it to the girls?
I don't know, man. I mean,
I thought about it, actually.
dude, okay. I know we're kind of all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
But the Meg is PG-13.
Yeah.
And so for Woodrow's like almost 12, like in a few weeks he'll be 12.
Parenting.
No. It's like that perfect mix of like thrilling, but not like tons of violence. There might be one or two bad words, I think, but like it's more just like it is great, man. In terms of just a fun movie to watch with your kid.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think your girls might be a little young for it because they might just get bored. You don't even see the shark dude for like 40 minutes. It's just like people, that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But Woodrow liked the first one better than the second one. In any case, that's kind of what I was propping up. Like, I've got Godzilla Minus One in my head. And like, I don't really know if I want to watch another guy. But anyway, I love Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
I went into this movie thinking, oh man, this is going to be really cool. I'd heard that it was kind of like shoestring budget and these like, there was a little bit of buzz around it and people being like, dude, this movie's incredible. And it's, subtitled. And I thought, man, how could it be doing so well? Anyway, I came out of that theater shocked, man. I could not believe how good it was. It reminds me of, if you go back and you watch the original, like from the 1950s, the black and white Godzilla movie.
It feels about as close as you could get to that.
Yes.
And they also released this one in black and white, which, I mean, I guess, like, how would you be able to see that? I know they did it like a limited release in theaters.
Yeah, so a couple of things I do know about that as well. Pretty soon it's going to be released on Netflix in that same way.
Oh,
the black
cool.
and white version. And then additionally, pretty soon they're going to release the special edition box set Blu-ray, and it's going to have all that stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I thought it was awesome. And the funny thing is like, you can tell that, like you said, there's like a shoestring budget. I never would have picked up on that. I mean, there are like moments where I don't know, sort of like the movement feels kind of like sort of cheesy or sort of like jerky or like it's just sort of weird, like the way the arms are moving. But you kind of just immediately let your mind go to, oh, well, it's just sort of an homage to the original, the very first like black and white Godzilla. Because it really feels like, I don't know, maybe 80% old Godzilla and then like 20% sort of like VFX, maybe CGI stuff.
Yeah.
But in a good way, and like probably the best way that I can think of. Yeah.
I mean, for me, dude, it ended up being like, to me, it's not a Godzilla movie necessarily. It's a It's a movie. It's a war movie in a way. It's a post-war movie.
Yeah.
It shows like the real. See, and here's another thing. As Americans, as an American, I should say, going into this, and I was open to it, but I thought it was going to be kind of like, hey, we're beat down because the Americans, and that's kind of what I expected. It is not that.
None of it. No.
And in fact, the overall message of just like humanity and the real sort of devastation of war in general, and the how people in any country sort of end up, being the wreckage that's left over, man.
Yeah.
And sort of like you've got these Japanese guys like that scientist character. Man.
Oh, he's my favorite.
My gosh.
He's awesome.
And there's something about the people that they chose to act like that guy seems so familiar to me. Like I swear I feel like I know him.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. And the sort of the like the old
Is
school.
Is that racist? Go ahead.
Canceled. No, the old school like mechanic / old pilot.
Same. Yeah. God, I mean, now that you're talking about it, dude, these characters, and so, wait, hold on real quick. I just had to say this because there's going to be people listening right now that are like, I don't really care about Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
That's go into it thinking about it as a really interesting slice of post-World War II Japanese sort of perspective.
I mean, that does not sell it for the common
Yeah,
listener.
I don't know. I mean, I like war movies, man. Like,
Okay, Grandpa, let's get you back there.
Okay. Like one
A14
river bridge over the
howitzer.
river Kwai.
My grandpa used to love that movie.
Dude, it's an incredible movie.
I don't know about that, but he did love it.
It
and I
is,
hated
dude.
it.
It's John Wayne, the Duke, man.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing
Come on.
is, there's so many, like those old war movies. Like I remember, my grandpa loved those movies.
Oh, yeah.
I remember like I would get into them in the war scenes, but then like the other 90% of the movie was just sort of like talking heads and I don't know. It was never like,
Let me say
it's like,
something
just give me
real quick.
Commando.
Right. You'll appreciate those movies now as an adult.
Well, you're
than-
60,
better
so.
than you would have as a kid. No, because there's like
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
no, there's really, really like strong sort of themes, man. That like as a
Yeah.
kid, you're just like, I just want to see some stuff blowing up and Rambo. I want to see Rambo 2.
Yeah.
Rambo 3. He's got a special arrowhead. now,
Oh,
and he
dude,
can-
the arrowheads.
He can blow up a Russian helicopter from point blank
Blowing
range
up-
and still be
yeah,
alive.
It was awesome. Blowing up those Apaches, man, were awesome.
I'm just all that to say, like, I really recommend giving it a try. Maybe, maybe Tyler and I are a little, I don't know. Maybe there's a higher likelihood of stuff that comes out of Japan that we would just, like anyway, just because we appreciate the culture and the art and all that. So that might be true.
Getting a
Maybe we're
little
just
too close
God's-
for me, Woody. Let's
And maybe it's
move
just
on.
that, Tyler, in his, if you were to look at his incognito mode,
No, but to Woody's point before, you said something that was like a really great point. Is like that sort of
I always do.
idea of the idea of like, okay, here's a society that's like completely rebuilding. That was one of the things that stood out to me that was really interesting. Is like you're kind of thrown into the movie, and it's like after everything had just sort of happened. So like everybody's like, they're pretty much living in like shanty towns.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was really interesting and kind of unconventional how the chemistry between like the main character, and again, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but it's like the kid was sort of like rescued by this woman, and then they kind of appear in this guy's like little, shack or whatever, and then he like lets them stay, and then they just end up like kind of staying together, and then talking about non-traditional like family systems, like it's awesome because they're not really like, it's not really like a love story, but it does turn into that. But I think it's cool because at the beginning, it's like just after everything happened, it's post, everything's just in a wreck, and then like a few years go by, the baby's like a little older now, and like you see their little shack, but it's like it's now kind of turned into like a little home, and like it's just it's a cool sort of, and they never even make a comment about that, but I just thought that was an interesting thing to see how you're like watching in real time this like the infrastructure of a country like come back up, and then you see like all sort of the creature comforts start showing up in their like little house, and like it's just really cool.
Yeah.
And
also just like,
We will return after these messages.
There's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man.
Hey, this is Bryce Johnson from the Bigfoot Collectors Club, and you're listening to Tyler and Woody on That Would Be Rad, because that is rad.
one thing that struck me about it too, culturally, all those people having respect for one another, helping each other. I don't know, man. It's just so good. It's just such a good movie. The acting I thought was incredible. The characters, like you immediately feel for each one of the characters. You can relate to them.
Yeah.
You feel emotionally involved. Like you don't want anything to happen. You're really sort of just hoping that they live. And there's these elements of suspense that they build into it all. And like really just epic scenes, man. Like the end-ish times when he's in the experimental plane.
Awesome.
I don't want to give too much away there, but it's just incredible. Coupled with
it's so Japanese.
The soundtrack. Like, dude, it's just so good, man.
So you may know this. Was the score, was it completely from the old?
No, so there are.
I mean, I know the dun,
I think
dun, 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 like,
yeah. And then they just used that, remastered it, and then, it's a brand new score.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Because it does like sound.
Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, that's
that
amazing.
good stuff, dude. So cool.
And it is.
And it's cool, again, going back to that 1950s one and then hearing it is just so neat that they incorporated that.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, man, like this score really was ahead of its time. I mean, I really am looking forward to watching this like in the black and white format because like I don't know. I feel like if you just turned on the TV, say we're back in the TV days. Say you turn this on and it was just showing the black and white version, I would say you would have a hard time not thinking that this was, you would have a hard time picking this out as like a new movie.
Yeah.
Just because like everything about it is like really authentic and like period,
I mean, the costume design, dude, even like the little like motorcycle that he gets and like all that. I mean, everything, it's just so well done, man. I'm so happy for those creators, man. Everybody that worked on that movie, I'm just so happy for them.
Yeah. Also, it did feel old in the sense of like, sort of like the set pieces and like it felt very like contained. It's like you're spending your time either out of the ocean on their little boat or like in their little house / shack or like, in the courtroom where they're sort of proposing like what they're going to do with Godzilla, which to me, like there's something oddly like comforting about that, that like old movies had,
Yeah. And almost like out of necessity.
Yeah, exactly.
And that, I think it's so cool that they did that. But again, probably out of necessity, they were like, well, we can only, we got to shoot it all right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is so cool.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come across, it doesn't come across in a bad way that it's contained. No. It doesn't seem like, they just move some stuff around,
Yeah.
They did it, they did it in the best way possible.
Which I honestly, I didn't have any idea after watching it that it was done on like a pretty small budget. Like to me, it felt like every decision and every choice was like very intentional and very well thought out,
I'm pretty sure just me and my ticket alone probably paid for the whole movie. Because I took my son like twice and then both of us took my dad.
Yeah, that's like $700.
That's $1 million.
That's $1 million. Quickly, I also started watching Time Bandits.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the title intrigued me because I'm like, oh man, this is about time. And like, is it based on the old, there's a Time Bandits, I want to say it's like a Monty Python thing from.
Yeah.
Is it based on that?
Okay, so I'm also a little embarrassed about not knowing this because I immediately knew the name and I was like, oh, it must be like a remake. But I just, I vaguely remember some of the like costumes and stuff, but I don't remember anything else about it. And I also think that I mix it up with like Baron Munchausen maybe.
Well, the cover for the VHS tape for Time Bandits and Baron Munchausen, were, I swear they had, and we'll, I guess, look it up, but had to have been done by the same artist.
Yeah.
I 100% did the same thing back in the day. I'd be like, wait, which one is?
Oh, interesting.
And as a result, I never really watched either of them.
Yeah, I don't really remember that either. But I did start watching it, and I think the first episode's cool. Like I said at the top, we also started Lady in the Lake. I think that's what it's called. And at first I was like, I don't know. Is this going to be... I feel like the trailer for it doesn't quite... I don't know. Like I feel like it's a lot more like up our alley than what the trailer sort of gives off. Like it feels not necessarily like supernatural, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's done in a way that's like, it's sort of like weird, and there's a lot of like sort of like back and forth, kind of like jumping between like times and stuff. But I think it's really good so far. At least like the first 3 or 4 episodes are really cool.
Seems kind of cool. Like it's just got one sentence, sort of synopsis, and it just says, in 60s Baltimore, an aspiring reporter pursues the murder of a forgotten young woman. That's it. So it seems like it's a crime. I could get into this, and it's got Natalie Portman, so that's good.
Yeah.
Moses Ingram, I guess I'm just guessing here because she's on the cover. She must be the person that's already deceased. And some interesting trivia here, although they weren't in the same...
The black woman?
Yeah, they weren't
awesome.
the same. They weren't in the same show, but they have been in the same universe previously, because Moses Ingram was in Obi-Wan, and Natalie Portman, of course, is Padme in Star Wars. So there's some connection there.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, so she's... I mean, and it's not a lot. I mean, it's only like a little bit per episode, but yeah, she's like narrating. And it's like she's...
Don't tell me anything else, man.
Okay, that's all I'm going to say. But it is really good. And it keeps you kind of hooked because like you're constantly sort of like what's going on? But like in a good way. I know that sounds weird, but yeah. But yeah, we like it. Since it's August, I just got to give a shout out to maybe, and I don't know, I'm making a lot of shit for this, but
oh boy,
maybe one of my... I would say it's definitely in my top 5 favorite albums. If not,
yes, dude,
maybe in my top 3. And that is August and Everything After by the Counting Crows.
Yep.
Absolutely love that record. Trivia, actually, I was loaned that album by your wife's older brother in 6th grade. No, 7th grade. He loaned it to me, and to this day, I still have it. And so it's sort of a joke. Every time I see him, I'm like, hey, man, I'm sorry, I forgot that.
I can't find it, man.
That album.
Yeah.
But it immediately, like, made me, turned me into a huge Counting Crows fan. I love the Counting Crows. What's funny is I typically don't like the stuff that's like...
the single?
Yeah, I never really liked the singles. I feel
that's what's funny about the Counting Crows for me, man. I actually didn't get into them until, pretty close to when we first met.
Yeah.
Because all I sort of knew them by were the singles.
Yeah, like Mr. Jones and...
Yeah. But now, so I, to put it plainly, I just didn't like them. I just thought it was kind of like, I kind of lumped it all in with like Matchbox 20 and even that kind of stuff. And I just thought, it's not really my thing.
Yeah.
But then I had a buddy named Bubba, yes, we're from Georgia, who basically just sat me aside one night. And he was like, dude, because I was just like, man, forget,
Yeah.
I don't want to listen to Counting Crows. He's like, no.
Yeah.
Now, what's cool about Bubba is he is like a music connoisseur. And then what's interesting is I kind of think he now he's like a wine sommelier.
Oh, nice.
Like an expert level. And level. And it makes a lot of sense because like that's sort of how he landed into a career that's just perfect for him because he just almost obsesses over details and story.
I mean, we're kind of like that.
We're kind of like that too, yeah. But like he could sell you a bottle of wine because he knows the story of the guy that started the vineyard back in the 1800s and he knows you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love all that stuff.
So in the same way, he was like, no, dude, trust me. You like music. I know that you're going to end up just come sit in the car with me and listen to this song. He pulls out this dang CD case, and it's just full of the official albums, bootlegs from live concerts, all this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And he plays me, a couple of songs, and I'm just floored, man. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
He ends up like giving me a ton of bootlegs and then just like writing he like makes me these CDs to basically like educate me on what I've been missing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good.
Ever since then, huge fan.
Yep.
I mean, they're so good. I'm just like you and anybody that just never gave them a chance.
Yeah.
I will say that like if you can forget about the singles.
Yeah.
And understand that at that time in the 90s, man, record companies and labels were controlling so much of, because you can listen to the single and even the production quality is different in some ways than a lot of the other songs.
Yeah.
And so it's not as poppy, it's not as polished. And the thing about the Counting Crows that really kind of spoke to me that I didn't have a clue about was the lead singer,
Adam Duritz,
his ability to not only utilize his voice as an instrument.
And bagging Hollywood hotties.
Yeah. Using his voice as an instrument, but also like using his lyrics as a instrument as well. It's kind of hard to explain, except that if you go and you listen to live versions of the song, he like ad-libs a lot of it. It's very like, I wouldn't say jazz, but there is a lot of
like,
yeah, man. It's just all over the place, and like even his melodies are it's very impressive. And so even if it's not your style of music, and we've got listeners that have incredible eclectic taste in music.
Oh yeah,
everything from like hardcore metal to screamo to like more modern metal and old school Metallica, but not before, not after Ride the Lightning or whatever. Clay. And all that stuff.
Yeah.
I get it. But in terms of musicianship, in terms of just this sort of like the Americana vibe that you kind of miss, I think, on the albums.
Oh yeah.
You gotta dig deep because it is really, really good.
Yeah. It's funny to think that me as like a 7th grader got into this because I didn't even really like Mr. Jones at the time, which was like their big single. It's probably their biggest single ever, I would say. Well, they covered they did some like stuff in like the Shrek movies, like Accidentally in Love, which I also didn't like. But I just remember like getting this record and it just became like immediately so important to me because it like, as a kid who grew up in a small town in North Georgia, surrounded by like, blue collar family where, we were, it just felt very like confined. And then there was like listening to this record, especially like Round Here, Omaha, Anna Begins, I absolutely love. Perfect Blue Buildings, A Murder of One is another awesome one. And then there's another song, which may be the saddest song ever written, called Raining in Baltimore. And I've told everybody that I know, when I die, I want that song played at my funeral because I want people weeping at that funeral.
And if there isn't anybody, we'll hire some folks.
For sure.
But I'm glad that you mentioned that that's what you wanted because you may have mentioned that before, but you could have held a gun to my head just now and said, what song do I want played at my funeral?
I've said that a million times, Steve.
No idea, bro.
No, it's just like this, like, it just gives you sort of this like snapshot of like what he said, like Americana, like middle America, this very sort of like, how would you describe it? Like very like dry and like blue collar, but not in a blue collar like Springsteen blue collar, like blue collar like farmers and like.
I don't know how to explain it, man. It is very Midwest vibey.
It feels like it was all recorded just like, which I think it was recorded all like in a house, like over a weekend.
Man? I just realized something. I think I know why we love it, man.
Why?
For those of you waiting for a Magic Mind mention, that's not what's going to happen.
God, I was hoping.
No. I think the reason why we love those songs and just like his writing in general. Now,
so
not
focused.
to mention the fact that like the rest of the band is just extremely talented.
Yeah.
Musicians. But his writing style, it's focused, but like also, man, I know that he is riding in a car or he's on a plane somewhere and he's looking at the world in a similar way that we view it.
Oh, very Kerouac.
And Ann always talks about this, and some of my friends have said this before too, that like the way I sort of view the world or whatever is almost as if I'm like watching it as a movie, and then like I'll see certain things in my head, kind of like, oh man, this scene would be really cool.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so he's observing the world in a way that he wants to tell the story later.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that like because of that attention to detail, we can relate to it really, really easily. And I think ultimately like most people can as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, we definitely have that, from being in a band ourselves and just as people and storytellers and stuff. Like we definitely gravitate to sort of adding that like sort of romanticism to stuff we're writing about or places or people. It's very sort of, Bob Dylan. It's like it's like you're sort of like making mythology in a way out of like the mundane. So like when we say
I'm glad you said that. Out of the everyday life.
Yeah. So when he's talking about like Omaha or like these very sort of like mundane, dry, like blue collar, like farmers and like Midwest. To some people that could be, I mean, especially in 2024, if you gave the kid the record, I could see them just being like, ugh. But like for me, at least when I heard it in middle school, I was just, it just blew me away because it was like such a different, it was right around like grunge and I was like really into that. And so it was almost like the exact opposite of grunge where it did sort of give this very like poetic romanticism to like the mundane, boring, everyday way of living that we all kind of, do. And I don't know. Like it sounds great, record sounds awesome, but August and everything after.
Well, I mean, what's interesting about grunge is I think so often it's like they can poetically see the tragedy of everyday life. And after a while, now, that might, for me anyway, in the, like, let's say by the time I was like 94, I was kind of getting worn out by that, And it's like, also like, what's that guy saying? I don't know.
I mean, that is
he saying hell no or hello? Do you know what I'm saying? Like that kind of thing?
Yeah.
And then, but with the Counting Crows, I feel like he can see and observe and write about in normal life everywhere surrounding him, the beauty, well, I should say the tragedy and the beauty of everything.
Yeah.
And so there's sometimes you're listening to a song and you can feel the emptiness or the loneliness even that he's going through. And you can relate to that. Everybody at some point can relate to the things that he's talking about in songs. And there's just, I mean, like Colorblind and Raining in Baltimore is one of my favorites too.
It's so good. Yeah, you had talked about like bootleg stuff. There's a double CD, which I don't think it's on Apple Music. I think it was called like Across the Wire maybe or something. But it was like a live record, like a 2-disc live record that I used to have that it was so good, man. It like what's really funny about it is like when I lost, that's the thing that made me want to buy my first Telecaster because I remember hearing that live record and being like, I mean, especially like coming out of like sort of very polished new metal like heavy stuff. It was like I was like, I want to do something new. I want to do something like at the time, you didn't really know what indie was, but like, I just wanted something that was like a different sound. It wasn't like super polished humbucker, Les Paul and a Marshall or whatever, or Mesa Boogie. Like I wanted like something where you could hear like the mistakes and the sort of, I don't know, like, what's a good word? What am I trying to think of here?
Like the imperfections.
Imperfections, that's exactly right, yeah. And those records, those live records, especially the guitar tones, I think they're all tellies, are just incredible. And so that's the reason that I played a telly all throughout, I mean, pretty much every show we ever played.
Yeah.
But yeah, go listen to it, August and everything after. They have a lot of great records. This Desert Life is really good.
There's some songs on Hard Candy that are pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, this is the song that I want played at my funeral. Are you ready?
Yeah, get in there.
Now, get emotionally prepared for this because I need you to picture you're sad. Your best friend's passed away, man. He's moved on. He's doing a podcast in heaven. Okay?
Okay.
And this is after the closing statements and and all that. The last person spoken, people were crying. Here we go.
Imagine the confusion.
Yeah, of course I'm just kidding, but that would be amazing.
You know what's funny? Actually, this is actually sort of paranormal. Have I told you about my aunt's funeral?
Mm-hmm. I think you've told it on the podcast.
Have I told it on the podcast?
Yeah.
God, that's the hardest part of the show is remembering all the stuff we talk about.
Not me.
Okay. Because we're always talking like outside of the podcast. So it's like, have we already done this? But yeah, anyway.
Let me tell you a quick something that happened to me the other day, bro.
Okay.
Since we're just playing catch up here.
We sure are.
The other day I was mowing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got back from vacation, just had to cut the grass.
Yep. Did it last night.
All of a sudden, man, I feel like, and no joke, because of where I live, there's a fair amount of snakes and stuff. But for the most part, my crazy outdoor cats, get rid of them. Dude, I swear to you, I thought I got bit right in the ankle by a snake. It hurt so freaking bad that I'm like looking around for the snake. I'm like moving stuff around with the stick because I'm like, do I need to go?
Yeah.
Did I get bit by a rattler?
Yeah.
Do
I need to like find this snake to present it?
To identify it at least. Was it a copperhead? We saw a copperhead a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I'm like, oh my gosh. And then, coming to find out it was just a stinking yellow jacket. But it's still, man, like it made my ankle several days later. It was like swollen and bruised up right at that area.
Sounds
My mom
horrible.
says that she thinks it was like a hornet, but in any case, it hurt so bad, man, that I was joking with like some of our friends. I was like, yeah, man, let me ask you a question. Am I a snake bite survivor? And so for like the rest of the night, I would like say something, they'd be like, yeah, I don't know about that. I'm like, I can tell you one thing. As a survivor of a snake bite.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of hornets, and boy, we were never even at the dock. We just drove straight away from the dock.
Yeah, man. We're on a boat that has no oars or anything. We're just floating around.
We were just free flowing here. Speaking of hornets, I saw a hornet the other day that was like, I kid you not, like 3 inches long. Is that like a Japanese hornet?
Oof. I don't know, man. There are several that I see that are, one got caught in Jane's like braided hair one time when that was the last time that I took him camping. Kids don't want to go back.
That'll do it.
And Anne, who's deathly afraid of
moths,
any flying insect, because I wasn't around at the time, took her hand and just got it out of her hair and flicked it away.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
Pretty awesome.
That is awesome. Also, guys, when he says his wife doesn't like flying animals, I'm telling you, like, when there's a moth, like a half-inch moth, she loses it.
Yeah.
She doesn't like it at all.
Let me give you some more context. We went to one of our friends invited us to go to the last day of their camp meeting. Mm-hmm. For those of you not from the South, what that basically is, this giant campground where people for generations, in this case 150 years, every year go to this campground, and they just have multiple sort of devotionals and like sermons every day. And then at night they have like either someone singing or whatever, and then like another message, and then kids are just playing and everything. It's really, really fun. Anyway, I get nervous. This is how much her fear of flying insects like truly is. I get nervous that we're going to be at camp meeting amongst a bunch of, very traditional, conservative, old school Christians. And my wife's going to get a moth just fly by, and she's just going to drop an F-bomb.
Man, I didn't even think about that, but it's all
so
outside
nervous.
under a big tent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's, man. Did anything like that happen or no?
No. And she can control herself. I'm just kidding. But, there's a part of me that gets a little bit nervous about all that. But, dude, there's this bluegrass group that played.
Yeah, dude, they're
called
awesome.
the Back Line, I think is what they're called. They're from North Carolina.
Oh, nice.
The lead singer, man, and I wish I would have caught a video of her singing. She had literally the voice of an angel.
Was it like super legit old school bluegrass?
Dude. Yeah. Her dad played with this I don't know, famous bluegrass band, wrote songs and did all this. And that's literally all they do, man, is they tour, but then they also, in the summertime, like tour all these like camp meetings and stuff.
Wow.
Dude, she sang this song a cappella that brought me to tears, man. No joke.
Wow.
And it was just like, I mean, legit, man. Her voice was so incredible. It was awesome.
It is funny that I grew up absolutely hating bluegrass just because it was like just what was around, like being in North Georgia, the, foothills of, the sort of Appalachian, mountain range or whatever. You just heard it all the time. Like I had a neighbor who, he was just like such a pro. Like he won like every state, these big like sort of bluegrass competitions. Like he was a banjo player. He won in like every state except Tennessee. That was like the one that he hadn't won in or whatever. But I just had such an aversion to it, and just because you don't really appreciate the things that you grow up in. And so much later, I mean, especially when the band kind of fell apart, Woody and I made, I mean, pretty much enough material for like 2 full albums that are just straight up banjo and acoustic guitar, no electrics, no drums, just like hand claps and so it is funny how you like go back into that. But in saying all that, yeah, my grandfather, who I never knew, he died in his 40s from some kind of weird like freak liver failure kind of thing or something. So nobody in my family was musical whatsoever. And so, that was always the thing, like, oh, well, does your dad play guitar? Does your mom play guitar? And like nobody's plays anything on both sides. But my grandfather, my dad's dad, was a like super famous like mandolin guy back in like the 50s. He was on the Grand Ole Opry all the time. He played on all these like famous like band, like sort of old bluegrass like standards and stuff. He played on all those like studio sessions. So yeah, shout out to my old grandfather, Dean Bence.
Dean Bence just up there in up there in heaven. Just
that's a hard instrument, by the way.
What's that?
The mandolin.
Oh yeah, man.
It's all
my
like
brother,
16th note.
Yeah. I mean, so my favorite instrument in a bluegrass band is the banjo, man.
Me too.
I mean, I just love the way it sounds.
I mean, dude, when we started doing the Southern Ghost stuff, I mean, you probably remember me saying this. Like, there was a time where I was like, I don't ever want to play electric guitar again. This is it.
Yeah.
This is it for me. I'm just going to be a banjo guy. I became really obsessed with it there for a while.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, we hope that you've enjoyed us just rambling and just 2 friends talking, shooting the bull, as you say, for an hour or so here. We put a lot into our Camp Rad Strangeness series every year. So it's always nice to like come out of those and just be able to kind of catch up and
yeah. I mean, part of it that I want people to make sure they understand is like, because we don't think ahead like we should, we decided to have like a series right smack in the time of family vacations.
Oh, yeah.
And, and so to pull that off with any level of consistency is quite a challenge.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like Tyler was saying, like we focus so much on, the Shadow Man and the Hat Man and all the shadow being stuff that when we kind of jumped in the studio, it was just like, okay, we need to get in here, knock it out so that we can kind of have this material ready so that, I can sort of edit it on the road.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So we really appreciate everybody joining us this past, I said it weird, joining us the past, couple weeks. But man, it feels good to just, kind of catch up and,
Yeah, it really does. And also, if you're not a member of the Rabbit Trail, our Patreon, I would venture to say that this is sort of, a little bit of pretty similar to our Patreon, where it is a little loose. It is a little, it's just two best friends just talking and, kind of getting in and out of like a topic, but for the most part, just kind of catching up. If you would like to catch up with us, you can do so over on Instagram. Shoot us a comment, jump in. We'd love to hear from you. shoot us a DM if you have your own story or maybe your own personal sort of paranormal encounter. If it's more long form, feel free to shoot it over to thatwouldberadpod@gmail.com. And even better, if you're somewhat of a performer and you wish to just kind of tell your story in your own voice, you can do so on thatwouldberadpodcast.com, or you can leave pretty much a voice memo. And, we may feature that in a future episode. We absolutely love anybody who's done that. Thank you so much to all the folks who have done that thus far. It, I don't know, I feel like it helps to sort of enrich the show, and having other voices other than just Woody and I is really cool. Also, if you happen to, if Woody's story about that movie that he cannot remember resonated with you, feel free to shoot that in. Any suggestions are welcome. We'd love to hear it. Head on over to our Patreon, The Rabbit Trail, where you can support us. Like I said, it's looser, it's a little goosier. It's we record it late at night, and so it's a little more free form, and us just kind of just going with the flow. I had a great time with Summer of the Shadow Man, but I'm happy to be back also. We're probably going to have, getting into some more pop culture kind of stuff, getting into, just whatever.
Time travel. I got some new time travel stuff that folks have been sending.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I got a few sort of weird accounts as well that I'm pretty psyched to hear. If you also want to help us out, but you can't financially support us over on Patreon, tell that one friend about the show. Share, a link, shoot a link to somebody for like a podcast episode. Go give us a 5-star review if you have the time. It really does help get us in front of new ears and new listeners to help, sort of expand our rad family. And we really greatly appreciate it. You got anything else, Woody?
I think that's it, man.
All right. Well, we love you. We appreciate you. And as always,
be rad.
That's the way it goes. The way it clouds in a time where I just needed some sunshine. You were already dead before you became a ghost. You always said our future would be a parade of flowers, but now all that's left is a single rose. That's the way it goes.
granted.
Well, I guess that's it. You got anything else? Well, hold on. Let me. We really appreciate it, and yeah, we appreciate you all of you guys. We love you. I swear to God, if you put that in a blooper reel,
Which one?
any of them,
Wait,
the whole last section.
Shh.